What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's having a good day today. I am. Today is a little special because our little special mascot here. Come here. You can come up now. He's losing his mind because he knows there's a bone here. I was not able to get him a cake in time. My groomer did not have like the mix to make a doggy cake. But Remo, do you want a bone? Do you want a treat? He's like, I know it's here. So we're not going to make him, since he's a birthday boy and we're one, we're going to give him a nice big bone to start this off. Where are you? Come here. Oh, what? Come, you know it's here, don't you? That big old snoot. He's like, I know it's here, Dad. I can smell it. It's on the table. So he's getting a nice big bone here. Oh, we are so excited. No. I gotta unwrap it first. Remo! Sit. I know you're so excited. Sit. We're gonna take the wrapper off. Remo! Sit. I know. You know this is for you. Oh my God. Yeah? Because you're a big boy today. You're one. Can we speak? Can we give me a speak? Oh. Oh. This is the good shit, ain't it? Speak. Sit. He is over threshold. Sit. Speak. Woof. Good boy. That'll keep him quiet. Go ahead. And we're going to run away. Yeah. And now he'll be quiet for the whole stream. So yes, he's 1 year old. I weighed him at the vet, and he's about 93 pounds. I was expecting him to hit about 100. He kind of plateaued for a little bit. He broke 100 for a little bit there, but he has been picking out his food as much, which is not uncommon for shepherds. So yeah, I just wanted to give him. I'm not going to make him wait all day because he knows it's there. He didn't see me put it in the bag. He just smelled the bag and was like, I know what's in there, Father. So, anyways, yes, he is a good boy. Also, for you guys that are on the Maw bandwagon, because I am, I finally got the... Did you guys get in on the pre-order for the Arctic Howl? I know it's like some sort of citrus blend. It's really good. It's still not my favorite. My favorite is still the Mythic Melon, which is my go-to. But I would say it's a close second after their apple one, which is the Green Growl. I need to look here to see what the flavor profile is. It tastes like there's some grapefruit in it, but it's pretty good. And I'm a big freaking fanboy for their stuff. I don't think they have it. I'm looking on their site. They actually don't have it on their site, do they? Do they not have it? Oh, it was a limited one. I should have bought two. That's really disappointing. So. But yeah, it's kind of a grapefruit flavor, but I'm very happy with it. So, but yeah, it's kind of like a citrusy grapefruit. I'd have to put my finger on it. So, anyways, Tom, I did get your clock is just hanging there, so I got it off my desk. I'm gonna put it above the flag somehow. The problem is there's a garage door opener rod. Not many of you guys realize this is a garage I'm in. This wall was not here when I bought the house. My dad and I put this up. It's all heated and cooled. But this is one bay on a 4-car garage. So that's actually a garage door behind me. So yeah, there's a garage door opener right here, and you can see the little rod kind of, it's darker, but it makes it hard to hang something there because that's there. But I'll figure it out. I'm trying to think of anything new to report. I am going to be popping a stream on. I'm going to take a little bit of a break around like after the stream. Probably come back around 7 or 8 o'clock because I want to fumble around in Fusion, try to get this done because my buddy Joe's printer. It's a G-Tech. It was an A20M, had issues with the Hotend. I got to get this off my bench. So would like to hang out. And I do want to do one more stream before the end of the year. So I think it would be fitting to wrap it up and I'm thinking, what would you guys prefer if we do a stream, and it would be a roast me stream, along with some giveaways for like an end of the year kind of thing. And I'm thinking either tomorrow in the evening, or New Year's Eve, more in the middle of the day. So I am having a little get together here at my place with some friends and stuff, and I need to obviously get ready for that. So I think for me personally, tomorrow would probably work best, but it would be later in the day because tomorrow is still a work day for me. What are you guys thinking? I'm looking to see what chat's saying. And look at that, I started on time. That's a first. Funny thing is, I found out all this time what my parents referred to as Hoagland time is really just the fact that basically everybody in my family has ADHD, and being on time is really hard. I feel like most of my viewers probably are in the same boat. So yeah, it's not that I don't give a shit. It's just, it's very hard for me to manage my time sometimes. So you guys would laugh at my Google reminders. My phone is going off all the time. So Thursday works fine. Let's see. I don't know how much of a delay there is on chat, but we'll circle back on that. But I want to have it. It'd be either tomorrow in the evening around 4 or 5 o'clock, or it would be New Year's Eve around noon my time. So I'm on Central Time. Thursday's good. I'll post the details on our social media pages and our website under the news section with how to submit stuff for the Roast Me stream. I will also send out an email as well to our main mailing list, and there will be a form you fill out where you can upload your photos and they will go right to my mailbox. So it'll all be detailed out. So here's a stream link. Here's where you submit your stuff to be roasted. So if your feelings are easily hurt, don't submit your stuff. It's a fun thing. There's a couple of them on the stream, and I think we did one. I think we did one this year, maybe two. I have to look at our backlog of videos. So. But anyways, I don't think I have anything else to report. I've been kind of taking it easy, and then next month I'm going to be pushing hard on a lot of stuff. So let's get into it and see who we have for questions. And I'm actually going to do, let me see if I can remember. I can never remember how to do the Nightbot. I think it's ! poll new what day to have the roast me on. And then I think it's just tomorrow at 4 p.m. I got to put a little pipe in that, or New Year's Eve at 12 p.m. Let's see. Is this going to work? Nightbot, are you paying attention? I can't remember if that's how you do it. I think it's the pipes. I got to have like a little cheat sheet here. There we go. It just reminds me. I always forget that second one there, so... Poll new title. All right, let's try that. Have your brother on Doug is hysterical. Ooh, I could do. Ooh, that gives me a good idea. I could fire up StreamYard and get a bunch of people in to roast the other printers. That could be fun. So I'll figure out the logistics on that. So, but either way, we're gonna have one. I want to see what you guys vote. So go ahead and vote. And we will see what the results are. I will go based on your guys' stuff to see when we do it. So, anyways, let's see what questions you guys have. So if you guys are new to the stream, this is your first stream you're watching, you ask me questions and I try to answer them. They do not have to be related to our products. Just keep them on FDM printing. I do not own any more resin printers. I got rid of them because I never used them. So yeah. Let's see. All right. So the first question is from Jackie. She says, do you have a video or instructions on using an Arduino to flash a bootloader on an Ender 5 Pro? I've never done it before. So I'm going to stop you right there. And make sure that you're on the right page, because the Ender 5 Pro came with, and I'm typing and talking at the same time, which I'm not very good at. So the Ender 5 Pro could have come with a couple of boards. There's two main board revisions. You have the 8-bit board, which is usually marked with a V1.1 point whatever for the model number, and you also have the 422 boards. So the problem is you do not flash the bootloader onto the 422 boards because they come with them. If you have the older 8-bit boards, then yes, you will need to flash a bootloader. There are some outliers where they might already have a bootloader, but I'd rather just tell you, you're probably going to have to flash a bootloader because that's typically been the case with those particular boards, is they do not have a bootloader installed. So, and I'll show you I'm pulling up images right here. Give me 1 second. Just so I can show you guys the differences in these boards so you can identify which one you have. And they're pretty straightforward in terms of what is what. So if you're not sure, not privy to which board you have, so the V11X, I refer to them, X being any number in the last spot here. This picture is showing a V114. These also were the V111, 112, 113, 114, and 115. They're all the same, aside from some slight PCB layout revisions. But for all intents and purposes, they all take the firmware and they all need a bootloader. So if you have a board that looks like this, that's got this little atmel, do you guys see this little atmel here? It says Mega 1284p. If most of your printers, if they have a 1284p CPU on them, they probably will not have a bootloader. Most of them do not. Some do, like the Anycubic Mega Zero, but in general, you're probably going to need a flash and bootloader, and you would hook your Arduino Uno up to this ISP programming header here to flash the bootloader onto the chip, so then you can update your firmware over USB. And that's something you only need to do one time. So once you have the bootloader burned to the processor, unless there's a bad flash or some other glitch, you do not need to reburn the bootloader. I do keep an Uno on hand just in case I need to reburn a bootloader, because I have had some boards where I do a flash and it just decides it's going to overwrite the bootloader. So sometimes you can bail yourself out by that, by reflashing the bootloader. Now, so yes, if you have this particular board, you're going to need to flash the bootloader, and you can follow the guide at bootloader.th3dstudio.com. You'll need an Arduino Uno with some jumper wires. We have a kit that we sell, but we're out of stock on them. We should have them in a couple of days. That comes with the Uno, the USB cable, and all the jumper wires. You can also source it yourself too. And then the other board, which already has a bootloader, is this little guy here. Which is referred to as the 422, and you can see it does look pretty different. It's got a micro USB instead of a mini. You can see the processor here is not the Atmel. This is actually an STM32 processor. And while you can program a bootloader onto these, they already come with one. If you guys ever have to reflash your bootloader on one of these 422 boards, that's what this header is for, the VCC, the SWDIO, SW clock, and then the ground. This is actually how we'd program a bootloader onto these STM chips. But these boards already come with a bootloader. So just make sure that you're not flashing a bootloader on a board, because there's people that somehow tried to flash bootloaders on this and they end up bricking the processor. And the thing I'd be really careful with is these run on a 3.3 volt and the 8-bit run on 5. So if you put an Uno onto this, you're actually going to be overvolting these I/O pins, and you could potentially damage the processor. Now, some of the pins on these are what's called 5-volt tolerant. I'm not sure if those are, but one thing to be mindful of is when you're dealing with 32-bit processors, they actually typically run on 3.3 volts instead of 5 like the older 8-bit ones. So, but yeah, hopefully that clears it up. I see we already got some spammers. Yeah, bye. Bye, Felicia. All right, so let's go back up. Crosswalk Guy, just giving a shout out. He loves our products. He's got the Easy ABL and Octoprint on all your printers. Awesome. That's like my must-have for all of my printers. I have to have auto bed leveling. 99.99999% of the printers here have our own kit on there. I think there's like one here that might be lingering with like a BL Touch for testing purposes. I know my test printer has both. I swap them out. I don't think I have any here with a BL Touch on them, because the last one I had was the Soval SVO3 and I sold it. So yeah, I actually don't think I have any. There's none in my office with BL Touches on them. I like drinking my own Kool-Aid. So let's see here. Tom is asking, he said he's a newbie here. How do you change the voltage on the Z motor? I'm adding a second Z axis screw. TH3's kit, of course, on the SKR Mini E3. So that board will actually have the adjustment done via the LCD if your firmware is set up correctly. You can go into the configuration, advanced, and then there's a trinamic driver menu, and you can set the current for the motor there. I would recommend somewhere around 800 to 900 for the motor current. I don't have a board handy, but there is a video that it's using our Easy board as the demo, but the menu options are very similar, if not the same. Let's see if I can find the video real quick. There we go. Oh no. Hang on. There we go. So, but yeah, you can just adjust it. I don't actually bump up. Why am I not able to? I'm trying to like tag people in the. There we go. I had to reload the chat. I was trying to tag people to give them a link, but it looks like I lost some of the questions. That's great. Hang on. Let me see if I can go back. Okay. I got them on my Streamlabs here. So the next question is from Albino Tree. He says, "Hi Tim, if my first few layers and top layers of my prints are over extruding after calibrating my E-steps, do I lower my E-steps a bit or do I modify my flow settings?" So if your first layers, is it all the top layers or just the ones closer to the base? If it's the first few layers, it could be that you're having issues with the Z not moving correctly. So it's kind of squishing it. Like, let's say, hypothetically, it's telling it to move 0.2 and it's only moving like 0.15 or something because of a mechanical issue. Then you can get what looks like over extrusion. But in general, if you've calibrated your E-steps, I typically will do all my adjustments in the flow settings of my slicer. So like the extrusion multiplier is typically the term that's used for that. So, but I would make sure if it's just on the beginning layers and if it's top layers that are close to the beginning layers, I would look in to make sure that you're not having any mechanical issues. The other thing would be is if you are using an auto bed leveling system and you have what's called ABL fade turned on, that's a setting in the firmware. Our firmware has that enabled, but it's set to, I believe, 0, so it's disabled by default. You would have to turn it on with a G-code command. ABL fade can sometimes cause layers to be squished as well, so make sure you rule that out because you could be chasing your tail and be like, what the hell's going on? So just wanted to throw that out there because that's thrown me off a couple of times. But yeah, if everything else checks out, I would mess with your extrusion multiplier or your flow settings in your at the slicer level. Don't keep messing with your E-steps if you know those are calibrated correctly. So let's see. Griffin's in chat. There we go. I'll always shout Griffin out because he pops in once in a while. Let's see. Happy birthday to Remo. I'm just checking to see if my chat over here is caught up. All right, we're caught up here, so I can go back to my other one. So let's see. Peter Anderson, I spoke to Peter in support. Wonderful name, by the way. I wonder. He said that he would ask you to add the ender extender options to the easy firmware. What's my opinion on that? Would I consider it? Well, there's already options in, I don't know if they're in the wizard, but they are already in, hang on. They're already in the config file. They may not be in the cute little wizard, but let's double check here. So easy config, I'm assuming probably be under miscellaneous. So here we've got a custom Z height. This is an older option, but you could also go to the online editor here, select your board, and then you can scroll down. And there are ender extender options in here, if my memory's serving me correct, unless I'm blanking out. Yeah, there are here. So there are some ender extender kit options already available. So you can access those through the easy firmware by just uncommenting whatever option you have. I don't know if he's added new ones in, but these are the options we had, the 300, the 400, and the 400XL. You could also edit your config file on your computer and then upload it to the site to be compiled. So the online editor is nice, because if you like just editing a straight up file, you can just do this instead of having to go through VS Code. You can still do all the options right here on the actual website, and still get the benefit of it doing the compile. And it's pretty damn quick. This is running on a, this website is actually on a 3960X Threadripper box. So it compiles pretty quick. So if I go here, we can see where it's already compiling. So if I give it a sec and just refresh it, it will refresh every 30 or 5 seconds, I think it is. Yeah, right here, 5 seconds. And it doesn't take very long for it to compile. There we go. So less than a minute. So, and then it spits out your firmware.bin. So you can just put this on the SD card and then flash your printer. So you can build your firmware for your EasyBoard V1 or V2 right on the website without having to mess with VS Code at all. And like I said, if you're the type that wants to, like, you know, upload your own configuration H file, you can do that, edit it on your computer, and then upload it. And you can see here we have an option here. Ooh, I'm gonna have to tell what's his name. I have to tell Chip that the static link's broken. 404. No. Let me make a note of that. Chip. Hang on. I gotta send him a link here. This was supposed to go. I wonder if this got broken when we went to the V2. Hang on. Ah! I'm just sending a message so I don't forget. But yeah, so if you have like the actual file, you can get it on our GitHub. So just because that download link's broken doesn't mean that you can't actually still get the firmware. You've got here under the About, if we go here, Unified Firmware, it'll take you to the GitHub and all the board config files are on here. So if we look in here, you can see here, EasyBoard Lite, EasyBoard V2, and the configuration H files in here. So I could download this, edit it on my computer, and upload it back to the site to be compiled. So let me see here, just for an example, so this is the V2. So if I save this, put in my downloads here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and open it. So here's the config file. So if I do the same thing here and just uncomment something, close it out, I'm gonna go back and upload it. Upload config file, tell it's for the V2. Choose my file, downloads, test 12, 29, 21. I'm not a robot. And then it'll do the same thing. So it's going to take the file I edited on my computer and then actually compile it on my server. So you can see it goes through pretty quick. I want to say it takes about 20 seconds total from the time it hits the compile till the time it's actually done. So it's a pretty quick little box. So I shouldn't say little box. It's a 2.4U chassis, so it's a pretty big beast. So, and there we go. It compiled my firmware for me. So I actually use that site to compile for the EasyBoard. I don't do it in VS Code on my computer because it's so much faster. My desktop's got an i9 9900K in it, and that website does it a lot faster than my i9. So let's see here. What other questions do we have? Went off on a kind of a tangent here. Marcus says, I've got a Kingroon KP3 flash with your firmware. Every time I put the SD card in the printer, it restarts. Any suggestion could be wrong. If I leave it in after it restarts, it works. So it sounds like the board's bootloader or the firmware doesn't like whatever card you're using. Some boards do this. I have some cheaper cards on our old EasyBoard V1. When you put a card in while it's already booted, it would restart and then it would mount the card on restart. I don't know if it's like some sort of panic with the Watchdog in Marlin. But the thing I found that works best is format the card with a FAT32 file system and 4096 allocation byte, or 4096 bytes for the allocation unit size. And that tends to sort that out. Just some boards, when you plug cards into them while they're already running, certain cards combined with that board will just restart it. There's really nothing you can do other than try to reformat it or try a different card. I found the best cards to use are smaller. So like we're talking 1 gig, 2 gig, 4 gig, 8, 16 and 32s. You start getting into the SD high capacity territory, and those tend to cause more weird compatibility issues with the printers. You got to remember the firmware on these things are pretty basic, and they don't have as wide a compatibility as like, you know, your computer does. So let's see. Yeah, take a break to breathe. All right, let's see. I'm looking here. There's the poll. Hopefully there's more questions. Derek Cirillo, what's up, man? I know you are a regular. Let's see. What small form factor FDM printer do you recommend? The Ender 2 Pro, the Wano i3 Mini V2? Oh, that's a tough... Well, so here's the thing. I have not put a ton of time on my 2 Pro. As I don't know if you guys saw, I moved it to the couch. I got to put it back together. I took the whole damn thing apart. But if I was buying one now, I would probably honestly go with the Ender 2 Pro. The Wano i3 Mini V2 is okay, but it's very limited in terms of modability because they aren't using, you know, the 2020 extrusions. I'm a big fan of the V-slot extrusion on printers. So if it was between like those two machines, I would probably go with the Ender 2 Pro, or maybe look at the, what is it, the KP5 with that newer direct drive setup. I'd probably go with the Ender 2 Pro if we're talking about like that class and price range of printers. I'd probably go with the Ender 2 Pro. So let's see here. Mark Lyon, Ender 3 Pro Hotend fan setup that's easy able compatible that I'd recommend. If you're looking to modify and go to a higher end setup with like a 5015 fan, the HeroMe Gen 5, while it's kind of fiddly and can be a little daunting to print for some, it is a good hot end solution. I have one of those on, well, I got the Gen 3 on my Ender 3 Pro, and I printed something else. I think it was a variation of the Red Squirrel that's a little less complicated that I have to put on. It's printed and sitting there. I just have not put it on yet. Yay for half-started projects that just get that end up laying around. I really want to get my Ender 3 Pro going again. I can't remember what mount that was, but it's like kind of a hybrid of the HeroMe along with a better mount. But the HeroMe Gen 5 is a good one. I'd recommend just going with a single 5015 fan. You're going to get a lot more airflow out of there, and then the better ducting on something like the HeroMe is going to give you better cooling, even if you're running that fan slower. So a lot of people, they'll buy like the 5015 fans that we carry, and while they move a ton of air, you know, they're not silent, but what you can do is drop the speed down to like 50 to 60%, and you get as much or more airflow as a stock setup, but it's quiet. So I really don't care. I run my fans at full blast for PLA. There's enough fans in this room running that I can't even really hear if one more fan is going. Film Factory, I'm repurposing a Crally 422 to run just XY motors for a pen plotter. If I only have a 12 volt or 19 volt PSU, will I kill anything? No, actually that should run fine on 19 volts because the stepper drivers are rated for that. The capacitors are fine. They're rated up to 24. Well, the board's designed for up to 24, so running 19 is probably not going to hurt anything. Basically, the range on those boards is like 12 to 24 volts, so anything in between should be fine. You know, the onboard voltage regulator that powers the 5-volt rail and the 3.3 is expecting an input in that 12 to 24 range, so you should be fine with a 19-volt power supply. I would recommend you get at least 2 to 3 amps, if not more, because, you know, when you start getting the motors going, you could end up pulling too much. So just make sure you got at least 2 to 3 amp power supply. You know, I would probably go for a 5 just so I have some headroom, especially if it's like kind of a no-name, you know, Chinese special power supply. You know, if it says it can do 5, assume it's going to do about half of that. So, Das says, did Crally already release Ender 2 Pro firmware source code? I have not checked. I'm not sure. Maybe someone else in chat could answer that. I thought someone mentioned it on a comment, but I can't remember. Jackie asking, when do you think the freight pricing might sort itself out? Order one of your screwdriver sets. It was going to be over 250 NZD to have it sent. I'm honestly not sure. I actually got to check. I have a reminder to follow up. I don't know if USPS is shipping to New Zealand or Australia yet. I should write that down. I'm going to ping my team. Is USPS still suspending shipments to EU and NZ? Yeah, because we had to turn that off because the packages were just coming back. Let's see. All right, next question is from Jonathan. He's working on Vanilla Marlin for his Ender 5 Plus. We're on the Hero Me Gen 5. How to prevent the part cooling duct from crashing into the aluminum piece in the back when it's auto homing? If it's crashing into the rear, I'm trying to think of what part, the part cooling duct from crashing into the aluminum piece in the back, because you're homing to the max on that printer on the X and Y. The easiest way would probably be to move your end stop forward and then check to see how much you can actually address then on the Y axis. I'm assuming it'd be on the Y. You're gonna have to move the Y end stop closer to the front of the printer. So basically that switch triggers right before that duct would hit the aluminum. But I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, you're probably gonna have to move end stops to make it trigger sooner, and then you are probably going to lose some print area in the Y direction. So when you're doing your Marlin build and you get it homing correctly and not hitting anything, then you're going to want to move your axes around to make sure that you have the correct print area after the modifications entered into the firmware for the X and Y axis, because you're probably going to be losing some print area, at least on the Y, possibly the X, depending on what else hits. And that's something that a lot of people overlook. They put on a big, aftermarket cooling mount, and then things start hitting, or, you put it on there and it only hits towards the front, and you never print that far until you need to, and then you're like, oh, it's hitting. You got to make sure you're actually able to print on the area you have set in the firmware when you're doing those type of modifications. I've had that happen quite a few times. Now it's part of my process when I'm going through and building a machine to double check my travel limits after doing the modifications, but just something worth mentioning. Let's see. Andrew Osmond's having issues with the hot end clogging. He done the hot end clean, the Hatfield fix, Capricorn upgrade. Should I go to all metal hot end? If you're getting clogging, I would double check to make sure that you're not getting heat creep, as in your fan is moving enough air across that heatsink. Because if you've done the Luke Hatfield fix, you shouldn't be having clogging issues if that was done correctly. The one thing I would then be looking at, like I said, make sure your cooling fan for the hot end is actually moving air. A lot of times when the bearings fail, they'll usually make noise, but sometimes they just spin slower. So if you actually spin the fan, it should spin smoothly with no resistance. If you feel any kind of resistance on there, that's usually an indicator that the bearings are going out. Fans are a wear item. If you have the stock fans, I've gotten anywhere from a month to 6 months out of the stock fans on most of these Chinese printers. Aftermarket ones, you can get a year to 2 years. Most of the ones we sell, if not all of them, have over a year for the MTBF, the mean time between failure, for that. But, all the fans, no matter what brand you go with, eventually they're going to stop working. The bearings will fail, and things are just going to not work. They're just wearable items. So I would check to see if you're actually getting enough airflow and in that your fan is working and moving the air it should be. Because if you don't, the heat from the heater block is going to start creeping up into the heatsink and making it too hot, which then will lead to the filament getting soft in the cold zone of the hot end, and then it'll lead to what looks like a clog, because it's just compressing in that area and not actually being able to extrude. So Vincent is asking, does manual mesh leveling do the same for a slightly warped bed than easy ABL, or BL touch would go as far as getting the best first layer possible? So the manual mesh requires you to basically be the probe. You're going to have to go through and probe out every point manually, and it will generate a mesh. So it's the same idea. The difference is you are the probe, and anytime you're gonna change a surface, or if you do an adjustment to the bed, you're gonna have to take a new measurement. The nice thing about having something like the Easy ABL or even the BL Touch, I would take a BL Touch over manual leveling any day, if I couldn't use an Easy ABL, is that because you have the sensor on there, you can just generate a new mesh on the fly. With the Easy ABL, it takes about 20 to 30 seconds tops. With the BL Touch, it could be a minute or two. But either way, you can have the printer take those readings for the mesh instead of you having to go and manually do each point. So the difference between manual mesh leveling and using something like an Easy ABL or a BL Touch is that the manual mesh leveling is manual. You are going to have to go through and map out all those points and then save it, whereas if you have a probe, it just does it. So let's see here. Old Curmudgeon, is the marble PLA going to wear out a tough nozzle Marble PLA is not actually a wear PLA. Marble PLA is just white PLA with some other flecks of a darker color plastic in. As far as I know, I believe it's like, it's not PLA, that's the darker specs. It's something with a slightly higher melting point, so it doesn't kind of blend in. It stays as like a little speck. But as far as I know, marble PLAs do not wear out nozzles, so you'll be fine. And either way, like in terms of just giving an idea, I've ran like 20 rolls of carbon fiber through our Easy Flow nozzles, and I haven't seen any wear on them. So, you know, marble PLA is not going to do anything. Let's see. Klosterman says, I bought an Anycubic Mega Zero V2. Is there a way I can add auto leveling? If so, what do I need to do so? So the Anycubic Mega Zero V2 is actually supported in our firmware. So if you go on our website, you can go to the Unified 2 firmware, you go to Anycubic, and then we have firmware for the Mega Zero V1 and V2. Now those printers, I have both of them, and both of them came with bootloaders on them. So those are a 1284p board, but both of mine came with the bootloaders. Now, I can't guarantee that yours is going to have a bootloader, but from feedback I've gotten from others and from the two printers I got from them, I got retail units, they both had the bootloader on there. So you could do that firmware. We have the firmware for free on our site, and you can add the Easy ABL onto that printer to get auto bed leveling on there. So, and those printers have actually been really good. They're both in our print farm, and I've had no issues with them. I think one of them had an issue with one of the extruders. Something came loose, but there were no major issues with them. They've been little workhorses. So, Spasmatic, why do I use mini USB instead of micro on the Easy board? Mainly for durability, and most people that are coming from the other boards are going to be already having a mini USB. The mini USB we use is actually through hole, and like the micros, you can get some through holes. Like if you look on Crally's, they have like these tiny little, there we go, these tiny little, you know, retention through hole ports. I know I have a V2 board sitting here. I just saw it. Oh, motherboard, where are you? He's hiding over here. So yeah, but if you look here, this is our Easy Board V2. You can see nice beefy ground posts going there, and then the actual pins are through hole. So it's mainly done because these are a lot harder to break versus the micros. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, people have broken these once in a blue moon, but they're very hard to break compared to the micros. So maybe I should switch to a micro, so then we can sell more boards when people break them. Just kidding. All right. Oh, I see Joe's watching. Joe's Project R3D team, he tipped me $5 and said he's been trying to level his bed for a week. I think I purchased an Imperial bubble level ladder rather than a metric one. See, that's where everybody messes up. If you're going to use a bubble level on your printer, it has to be a metric one. The Imperial ones don't work because everything on these printers is all in millimeters and Celsius. So it's a very common mistake. Just, you know, head over to Home Depot and, you know, ask them where the metric bubble levels are, and you'll be in much better shape. So let's see here. Exile 2828. Hey Tim, hope you had a good Christmas. I did. I appreciate you asking. How can I stop first layer under extrusion under 3 with a glass bed and a Sierra Touch? Is 70C bed temp too much for PLA? So first layer under extrusion, it's weird that just your first layer will be under extruded, except for if you have too little of a gap for your Z height. If you're too close to the bed, you're going to prevent the printer from extruding correctly because it's physically restricting it. If you're not getting under extrusion on the rest of the layers, I would probably recommend checking your slicer settings to see if maybe you have it set to a like a lower extrusion width for that first layer. you could also try bumping up the print temp of the nozzle to see. Maybe your filament just needs a little bit higher of a print temp to start flowing correctly. In my experience, most of the made in US plastics like Coax or Atomic, they will need a higher print temp for PLA. I'm not a material scientist. I don't know why, but that's just been my experience. So I usually run hotter temps. But in terms of 70C bed temp for PLA, you're kind of wasting energy there. I usually run about 60C for mine. 70C is not going to hurt anything, but you're just wasting power at that point. So, oh, I forgot. Speaking of filament, we will be adding GreenGate 3D PET G to our website in the next couple of days here. I just got to finish the product pages, but we do have their filament in stock. We've been testing it here in-house. It's been really good stuff. So we're going to add them into the lineup of filament we offer. And they're also another U.S. company. So we're sticking with our theme of carrying high-quality U.S.-made plastics here. So you can expect to see those in a couple of days. I got to finish up the product descriptions and the photos and everything. So, but I just wanted to put that out there. And I also want to give a shout out. I don't know if Sean watches these streams. He's one of my technicians out of the shop, but I appreciate you for testing the filaments. Loves printing. And if there's any new materials, he's got more time and plays with them when he's at home. And I'm like, here's some filament, play with it. And he's just like, cool, free filament. And then he'll come back in the next day with like these beautiful prints, you know, and give me feedback on the materials. So let's see. All right, William, I have your border screen for my 5 Plus. My screen went out and I had to get a replacement from you. Since that replacement, I get the buzzer coming on. It's very loud. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you meaning it's just like loud when it does come on, or it's coming on at random? I need more information on that. Let's see here. Dominic, I do not have an ETA for the Ender 5 Dual Z. I'm just getting caught up with tons of stuff here on the back end. So that's still shelved. Let's see. We've got more spammers. Let me see. I see Tyler is screwing with Krista in chat. Just love messing with people, don't you? Tyler, that is. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to see if there are any questions. Hugo, can we straight swap a 4988 with a TMC 2225? If they're removable, the Robin Nano 1.2, is that a socketed? I don't think that's a socketed board, is it? Hang on, I gotta look it up. Is that a socketed driver board? Some of the Robins are, some of them aren't. That is a socketed one. You should be able to swap them out. You might have to change the motor direction though. Because I've noticed when you swap from like a 4988 to a Trinamic driver, it usually runs inverse. So like if you tell your X to move right, you swap it, it'll probably move left. Now you can either change it in the firmware, or if you want to keep using stock firmware, you could just rotate the or swap the wires around on the plug for the motor itself, and that will flip around the direction of the motor. But you can do it in firmware as well. Neo Prodigy, Easy ABL Sawmouse. Seems like I still need to shim the bed to get the print right. Well, if you post some pictures of what you're dealing with in the Discord, I can pull it up and see. But the thing to check too, I'm not sure what you mean by getting it to print right without any pictures to go along with that. But the main thing you want to check is that you are running a G29 in your starting code. So preferably using our starting code, which will go through the correct startup process of the G28, G28Z, and then the G29 to generate the mesh. And making sure you don't have a G28 after the G29, because that can disable the auto bed leveling compensation too. So let's see. Alden Cost, would like to hear your thoughts on the Prorefi 3D steppers. I've never heard of them. And it looks like the pole is not working that Nightbot created. I've never heard of this Prorefi. Let's see. Um, they don't really have much on their site. They just have some stepper motors and an upgrade kit. I'm very confused. These just look like regular stepper motors. Oh, is this for the... Oh, this is for Prusa, for fixing Prusa and their freaking print quality issues. Oh, yay. I might have to look into that because I've had issues with ours as well. You know, that issue that nobody, that Prusa says doesn't exist. Yeah. Interesting. I have not messed with them, and I don't plan on doing much more with my Prusa just because it works well enough to use it. So I haven't messed with it. I don't know why this poll is not working. Are you guys able to view the poll? Is it because I'm using Edge and not Chrome? Or is straw poll just not working? I think straw poll's not working. All right, let's see. Any experience with the LDO Orbiter V2? I have not. I've not messed with it. I'm sure someone in chat or in our Discord server has messed with it. That's a really tiny geared one. It looks neat. I'd like to play with it. I should have more time next year to... I should have more time next year to play with more new stuff. Let's see here. Hugo, could a Pi 02W be powered off a Robin Nano using the 5-volt pin? I would not recommend you powering any Raspberry Pis off of any board's onboard 5-volt pins. They're usually not spec'd out to power something that's that power hungry. Your Pis can pull up to like 2.5 to 3 amps depending on the model. I don't know if the zeros are lower power. But you want to run them off their own power adapter. I would not recommend powering them off of any board's output unless that board is specifically rated for powering a Pi. Because the problem is you get undervolting and then you're pulling power off of the 5-volt rail that's usually designed to run the actual board itself and not necessarily another whole computer. So, let's see here. Mark Lyon, my stock fans on my Ender 3 V2 died a month after I got the printer. Sounds about right. I'm looking to see here. He was also asking, how do we use home offsets properly? My printer homes, it's off the bed like 3 millimeters. So 0, 0 is off the bed. So in our firmware, there's an option called Home Adjust, which you can tell it how far off the bed on X or Y your nozzle is when homing. And then that applies those variables into the firmware. So it knows, okay, when I home, I'm this far off the bed, and if I'm told to go to 0, 0, it will then move it to physically 0, 0 and take into account those offsets. Marlin has a command. I don't remember what command it is off the top of my head, but there is a G-code command. If it's enabled, you can then send a command to tell it, but then that only stores an EEPROM. I prefer doing it at the firmware level so I don't ever forget what those offsets are, because if you reset the EEPROM, all those changes are gone. So, let's see. Peter Anderson's talking more about the Ender extender. Apparently there's one for the 5 Plus. I don't have any options for the 5 Plus, but the source code is provided, so you can modify those options in the firmware. That's what you'll have to do, is modify those in the firmware. So I would appreciate it if companies make third-party products, if they could, submit some pull requests to our firmware and we can get them in, because it feels like these companies do all this stuff and then their customers come to us asking for help with their products. My whole thing is, if your product requires a firmware change, you should be doing some sort of support or have some sort of document on, here's how you modify it in Marlin, here's how you modify it with, the TH3D firmware, etc. So, but those would just be bed size changes and Z height changes. So, which you can do that in the config file and then upload the config file to the website to be compiled if you don't want to do it on your computer. Let's see here. All right. Battlebong says, I've been using Micro Swiss all metal hot ends for a while. They've served me well. What's your preferred all metal hot end? I've used Micro Swiss and they've been good. I haven't had one in a while. I just use our generic, the Tough Hot End, which is a V6 clone, and they work well. I actually haven't been using too many all metal hot ends recently because most of the materials I print are well within spec of our Tough Tube, which is up to like 275C. You know, the hottest materials I print are some PET Gs that are 250, you know, ABSs that are 240. And once I swap out the tubing, I'll just run those higher temps with the higher temp tubing and, you know, keep running those until, you know, the hot end dies. And if the hot end has a catastrophic failure and I don't have an OEM one, then I'll throw one of our tough hot ends on. But Micro Swiss does make good all metal hot ends. In general, I recommend that you do an all metal hot end if you actually have a material that warrants it. Because in general, no matter what brand it is, you're going to be more prone to getting clogs with an all metal hot end, especially with materials like PLA, because they're more prone to stick to that all metal filament path, specifically in the heat break zone. So it's just something I would prefer not to have to deal with. Our print farm printers, including our ABS machines, all run the stock Crally hot ends, but they have our tubing and fittings on them, and we run them very heavily and they run great. So, let's see here. I am getting close to the end of the stream, and we started on time, so we only got like 7 minutes left. I'm going to see if there's any quick questions to answer before I wrap this up. John Santiago, any ideas if the EasyFlow nozzle would work with a Micro Swiss all metal hot end, or are you stuck with their nozzle? So if you have a direct replacement Micro Swiss that replaces a stock Creality hot end, the MK8 nozzles we carry will fit into those hot ends. So they're just standard size. The Micro Swiss nozzles are also, for the most part, as far as I know, the ones for the Creality printers anyways, are also MK8 standard. So you can use any MK8 nozzles with an MK8 hot end. So the stock hot end takes MK8 nozzles. The Micro Swiss for a lot of the Creality printers take the same MK8 nozzles. So, yeah, you're just matching up part numbers, basically. They both have M6 threads, and the lengths and everything and the dimensions are the same. So, let's see here. Vincent, for the Chiron Bed Leveling and your EasyABL Pro, I have a mount. What else do you recommend? I already upgraded to your LCD and firmware. If you already got the LCD and firmware installed, then you would just need the kit. You should already have extra jumper wires to make the connection for the Z between the EasyABL board and the stock control board. That's about it. So let me scroll up here. My damn chat jumped again. All right. Let's see. Any other quick questions? Spasmatic, what slicer do I like the most? I'm still using Simplify 3D. I'm not a big fan of the company itself, but it works. Yes, they haven't released an update in a while, but at the end of the day, I get great prints out of it, and that's all I care about. I put STL in, I hit slice, I get G-code out, and it prints. Use whatever you guys like. I know there's people that don't like S3D, but I've been using it for years, and it works. So, yeah, if there's lag, it's not on my end. I have alerts set up, and it's probably just YouTube being YouTube. Let's see. I'm looking here. Dominic, do you plan on getting a V2 of the chocolate printer? I do not. I got the Danielle, who's our shop manager. She actually has the chocolate printer. I ended up giving it to her because nobody used it here. I bought it for somebody to use it, and nobody used it. But Danielle's been playing with it, so I'm glad it's actually found a home that it can be used at. I just don't have time to play with it. I'm not a big baking person. I don't know if that surprises you or not. But it was a cool printer. Let's see. Terry D, this will be the last question I'll answer, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Terry D, does the latest EasyBoard firmware include Bontec direct drive with Mosquito Hotend? So here's the thing. You don't need specific firmware for stuff like that, like extruders or hotends. All that changes when you have a different extruder and or a different hotend is, like for the extruder side, your motor direction for the E-motor, whether it's inverted or not, and the steps per millimeter for that particular extruder. And then in terms of a hotend, you may have to change the actual thermistor number depending on what thermistor is being used in that hotend. So, and those are just firmware settings. They're not specific to a Bontec or a Mosquito or an E3D or a Titan or a Hemera. So those are just variables. If you see options for like, oh, this firmware has Bontec support, it just means that those values are pre-coded in. So, and the thing is, there's so many different versions of extruders and thermistors and stuff that it's kind of hard to hard code a million different options, and it's best to just have the firmware have the ability to let the user put in their values for their particular machine. So, but I think that'll be it. I'm gonna wrap this up. I would give Remo a dingo stick. Or do you want a dingo stick even though you have that big bone? He's literally been chewing on that bone this entire stream. I thought I had a dingo stick. Do we want a dingo stick? It is his birthday. I do have a dingo. Do you want a dingo stick too, you guys? Oh, of course you do. Look at the fatty. He's like, I got a big. Oh, I'm so torn. There's a bone. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I want all the bones at the same time, guys. You said. Oh no. Speak. Oh, good boy. There we go. We want all the bones. But, anyways, it was fun hanging out with you guys. If you guys want to keep continuing on chatting about printer stuff, we do have a Discord server, and you can join that over at discord.th3dstudio.com. We do these streams every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time. Sometimes I start a few minutes late. Sometimes I start on time. It really depends on how bad and busy I am that day. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I hope you guys learned something, and be on the lookout for the details on the Roast Me stream. I'm going to chat in Discord to find out what time people prefer. I'm more leaning towards tomorrow, but I'm not sure. I'm going to chat with the nerds. So if you guys want to put your input on when the Roast Me stream will be, you can catch me over in the Livestream's Discord channel, which you can join by clicking the link in the video description. So I will see you guys on the next stream. If I don't see you guys again, I hope you guys all have a happy new year, and I'm looking forward to an awesome 2022. And on that note, I will talk to you guys later. Happy printing.
Hi there, Frank George here. As a doctor, I know a thing or two about probing. Indeed I do. I love something that's easy to install, easy to use, and backed by a real support team. And that's why I choose TH3D Easy ABL Kit for my 3D printers. I prefer not to waste countless hours trying to figure out how to connect things to my machine when I could be printing instead. With the TH3D Easy ABL, you get technical support, easy to use firmware, quality parts, amazing accuracy, and there's no moving parts. What are you waiting for? Head over to their site at easyabl.th3dstudio.com and get one today. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy printing. The Easy ABL Kit is meant for 3D printer usage only, not for medical or rectal use.